What's up guys, Midnight Maker here, and today I'll be doing a bit of a video where I talk to you guys about puff painting patterns and specific techniques for a specific Spider-Man suit. This video will be fairly beginner friendly, but I do recommend practicing before trying any of these techniques. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. This here is a video of me puff painting my Sam Raimi Spider-Man mask. As you can see, I'm going very slow, and for this specific suit, for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man suit, or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suit, whatever you like to call it, I like to make sure that the webs are very thick. And you can see that on the pattern too. I try to almost go slightly thicker than what's on the pattern itself. And for these ones, you want to make sure you're going really slow to make sure that your webs are nice and consistent. That is a good general rule for most Spider-Man suits, but for this one in particular, when you're doing the thick webs, you want to make sure that they're consistent or else it'll be kind of noticeable. And might even look a little messy. As you may notice, I am painting straight from the bottle that the puff paint comes in. A lot of people recommend that you use a specific type of nozzle or you put the puff paint into another bottle, and in my opinion, do what works for you. I started out using the puff paint bottle and I've just gotten super used to the feeling of how much I need to squeeze in order to get a specific amount of puff paint out. So if you find that your hand cramps really quickly, or if it's just too difficult to squeeze the bottle, try something else. You could try the pastry bag method that a couple people have tried, like McLean Krieger, I think, was the one that introduced that. But Sensational Spidey actually has a tutorial on his page where he explains that specific puff painting method. So, for the next part of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suit webs, some people like to use a method called the Sharpie method, which is where you basically take a silver Sharpie and color the black webbing, but only on the top layer. This essentially gives it some depth, which the original movie suit had because they had urethane webbing, which caused the webbing to be very thick. You can see that here on this movie suit, that it has the black webbing on the sides and then silver on top. I found out about this method from a guy named K.A. Cosplay Tech. I'm not sure if he is the one who created this method, but he's definitely the one that popularized it. And it really is a fantastic way of getting that urethane look without having to actually go out and buy a urethane kit. Obviously, it's not accurate to those original Tobey Maguire movies. However, if you are going for a No Way Home style look, the suit in that movie was actually screen printed, and so this would be pretty accurate. The only major downside to this method is that the Sharpie can rub off. So if you are using this for a cosplay that you plan to wear to multiple cons, you may need to reapply the Sharpie. Here's how the webs look when you're all finished sewing it up. And as you can see, it is pretty accurate to the movie and for a fraction of the cost of buying an actual urethane kit. Now let's pivot for a bit. So for the next technique I'll talk about the Hex Pattern on the TASM 1 suit. The TASM 1 suit is probably the most commonly puff painted suit, at least for the texture side of things. I, as well as most people, think that the suit just kind of doesn't look right unless it has that very rubbery and kind of very shiny look to it. So as you can see here in this video, I kind of have a specific way that I go about painting these hexagons. I'm just talking about the blue specifically here. I essentially do little almost U shapes. It could also be little almost like 3/4 circles, but you essentially just want to try and get hard lines. Now, it is hard to do this with puff paint because puff paint wants to almost like smoothen out a bit. So you do have to figure out a way where you can almost move the bottle. It's kind of like you're drawing. That's kind of how I like to think about it. I think about it like I'm drawing the hexagons on with like a pencil. And you can probably see that here. Something you may notice is I am going quite a bit faster on this pattern than I was with the Raimi webs. There's a couple reasons for this. First off, the hexagons are much thinner than the Raimi webs, and the webs on the TASM one are also much thinner than the Raimi webs. I also think that because it is just a pattern, you can get really good if you just practice this a bit on maybe like even just like the back of the leg, or you know, somewhere where no one's really going to see it. if you practice a method and a specific sort of almost routine for puff painting these, you can knock this suit out. And I'm talking like you can go really fast on these hexagons. Don't go so fast that you're being sloppy though. That's one thing to make sure of. I try to optimize my speed essentially, where I'm going fast enough that I feel like I'm spending enough time on each part that I'm not wasting time, painting just a tiny hexagon on, the side of the shin that no one's ever going to see. But I do still want it to look good in case someone happens to look there. So it's about finding a balance of speed versus precision. Now, like I said, I've been doing this for quite a while. I've been puff painting for about 3 years. And so my hand is very steady, and I also can figure out what the fastest pattern is for this specific section. And depending on my orientation is the pattern that I will do. That was a lot of information for just a couple of minutes, so I'll simplify it a bit here. Basically, optimize your precision and speed. Once you're precise, then you can start to speed up a little bit. This is just a different section of the TASM 1 suit, and as you can see here again, I'm using that similar sort of technique where you just repeat the same kind of pattern. See, I just keep doing a U shape over and over again until eventually the pattern is done. Normally I'll actually go a little faster than this. I just had to keep readjusting myself because the camera was a little bit in my way. But same principles apply here. Now we can also talk a bit about the red sections of the TASM 1 suit. So essentially it's a very similar process, but these hexagons are actually in a different sort of orientation, I guess, or they're kind of a different shape compared to the blue. They're a lot rounder as opposed to oval shaped, and so it does become a bit harder to make sure that you have straight and solid lines. Essentially, just try and figure out, again, a pattern that kind of works for you. I kind of change it depending on how the piece is oriented relative to me. And you'll also likely use less puff paint on the red because the red is much thinner than the blue. So that's just something to keep in mind. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to everyone that's been subscribing lately. We're almost at 40,000 subscribers, which is really insane, and I can't thank you guys enough for all the continued support on all my videos. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.